Good morning, one and all. Welcome back to another video. It's Tuesday the 7th of November. I haven't yet watched back yesterday's videos, but all I can remember, and it's a bit blurry, I'm not going to lie, all I can remember is just feeling as if I couldn't string a sentence together to save myself. And that's not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling at all. It makes you feel like, well, it's confusing, it's confronting, and, well, at the end of the day, I just felt like an idiot, stupid. Like I've given myself brain damage, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, detoxing from any substance is a serious issue, and different people go through it in different ways. And I am going through it right now. So today marks day 5 of quitting weed. And I've got some good news. Last night was the closest I've been so far to having a normal sleep. And being that we are human beings, and being that the only way we regenerate and re-energize and heal our brains from the toxicity that we may have. Oh fuck. Do I stop now? Look, the only way we heal, the only way we re-energize, like I said, is to sleep. And it's to sleep sober. It's to sleep without the aid, some of us may call it, of alcohol or in my case, most certainly marijuana. I've firmly believed for years and years and years, even after having quit for up to a month in the past, and during those times I've convinced myself the exact same thing I'm convincing myself of now, and that is that no, you don't need a substance to sleep. And that eventually, once you do get through a week and a half without weed, you do go back into somewhat of a normal sleeping pattern. And yes, you may feel like you've been hit by a truck the first few nights, or the first few mornings, and that that's normal, and you've got to get through that. You've got to get through that. And last night I slept for a good, I tossed and turned. I did have a little bit of a sweating issue. Certainly nothing even close to what I experienced on night 2 and even night 3. So being that it was night 5, and being that I am in a place that's like 37 degrees during the day and about 23, 24 degrees at night, it is hot. And if you don't have the air conditioner set at the right setting, you can tend to sweat, whether you're detoxing from weed or not. So last night, a little bit of sweats, it comes with the territory. And, tossed and turned probably about 10-15 times, but at the end of the day I did fall asleep initially prior to midnight, which is fantastic, and I woke up feeling relatively refreshed, relatively being the key word, at about 7 o'clock this morning. So last night was the closest I have been to sleeping like a normal fucking human being in a very long time, and I am super, super happy. I'm super stoked about it. So, it's funny, I've got this smartwatch, and it is really, I've been wearing it for about 2 years, off and on, and I've mentioned in the past that I have been quite obsessed with certain metrics, including my heart rate. But one that I have not really paid attention to until the last week, especially, the transit period through the airport, being up for 36 hours, and also being sick for the 3 days prior to that, I started looking at what's called your body battery. And I didn't really, I didn't really take too much notice of that in the past because I didn't really have a reason to. I mean, I hardly ever get sick, right? And I hope and pray that I'm coming to the end of it right now. But either way, your body battery is a measurable that the watch sort of, it obviously takes data from previous days, weeks and months, and depending on how your day goes, depending on what your heart rate's doing, depending on you know, when you are resting, how much rest your body is actually getting. Are you actually getting rest, or are you just staying still? Either way, it works it all out. And throughout the night, your body battery does increase because you are officially resting. And then throughout the day, it sort of dips. And then if you do have a bit of, you know, you might sit down for half an hour, it sort of goes up a couple of points and then it starts dipping down again. And by the end of the night, you're normally at about, 30%. And then you'll rise back up to something like 80 or 90%. And if you have a really, really good sleep, it gets back up to 100%. Now, last night, I got my body battery this morning up to about 88%. And looking back a week ago on Monday when I began getting sick, it knew that. So I began, getting sick throughout the night, right? So during Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, my body battery, and I don't think this has ever happened before, well, I've certainly never noticed it, but my body battery was literally a flatline zero. Zero! No wonder I felt like shit. Zero for 4 days straight. And that is because my body simply did not get 1 minute of actual rest because it was so fired up due to being sick. My heart rate was at least 20 beats per minute higher constantly throughout those 4 days. So, my resting heart rate has been as low as 45 beats per minute, even recently. And during that time, and even up until Saturday, I couldn't get it didn't matter what I did. Oh, sorry guys. Jesus. It didn't matter what I did. My resting heart rate would not drop under 65 beats per minute. And, that was worrying. That was worrying, especially for a guy that does put a lot of emphasis on resting heart rate and health. And so either way, guys, my watch, if I didn't know, then my watch certainly knew. I was sick, I was under the weather, my body was under a huge amount of stress. But like I said last night, I finally was able to raise that body battery up to 88%. So we've woken up this morning, we're not 100% perfect, and we're not at 100% energy. But we're getting there. And fuck, I'll tell you what, it's just a relief. It is an absolute relief. I've got a job to begin. I have a job to begin. I've just emailed my boss, my future boss, saying, I'm on the mend, everything's going okay, but I'm not perfect yet. And I'll be in on Thursday. Can we lock it in? She replied within 2 minutes. Thursday is indeed locked in. So I'm beginning work on Thursday. Today is Tuesday. 2 more days. 2 more days of rest and recovery. 2 more days of preparing myself for the real world once again. And 2 more days of building my conviction around living a sober life. To put it all into context, guys, the difficulty I've had to get to just this point in the past, right? Just to put it into context. Okay, so today I come to you, 3 weeks sober from alcohol and 5 days sober from weed. And the last time I was able to do that, the last time I was able to get, 3 weeks off of alcohol, okay, but really we are clean and sober from all drugs and alcohol for 5 days. The last time I was able to get 5 days completely sober was a year ago, and it was in a detox. an inpatient detox. And I checked myself out after 6 days, and I went to the bottle store and I began drinking again. And that was it. Off to the races. Prior to that, I was able to get 30 days of complete sobriety from drugs and alcohol. That was another year prior. So we're 2023, we're talking 2022 was the last time I was able to get 5 days. In 2021, in about August of 2021, I was able to get 30 days, but not on my own. Once again, in a detox, and after the 7-day detox period, I went to an inpatient rehab center. And that was I was so desperate at that point. I just simply wasn't able to do it myself. And so, I had to wait 4 months to get a place in an inpatient rehab. They are hard to come by. It was publicly funded. And I managed to get a spot, and it was a godsend. And once again, at day 30, I made the conscious decision to leave. I had another 30 days to stay. I left. I went back out into the big wide world, and I lasted about 2 hours before I made it to the bottle store and sacrificed my 30 days worth of sobriety. Now, prior to that, I can't really recall ever being sober for any longer than about 3 or 4 days from either substance. And so this time, like I said, just to put it into context as to how well and how proud I am of myself, how well I'm doing and how proud I am of myself, I have never been able to get to this point in the big, out in the outside world. I've never been able to get to this point until today, until now. And so that's progress. I've always felt like I needed some sort of detox or some sort of program, something, some place that I could sort of check myself into and get away from the outside world, get away from all of these influences. And that's because I obviously wasn't ready, and I was looking for help and looking for, excuses. When really, you've got to make the change inside. You've got to want to do this. You have to want to do this. No one's ever going to force you. And at those times, I wanted to do it, but I couldn't. I couldn't do it by myself. So, I had to commit to some sort of detox, some sort of rehab, some sort of program, which then meant I was restricted, which then played in my mind and sort of, I started saying things to myself like, fuck, well, you're just not in control. You're not in control of your own life, your own choices, and you've relinquished that control to social workers and, nurses and whoever's looking after you. And I don't think that sat right with me either. I always had to, I was always going to have to do this on my own. And this time, I've done it so far. So that's where I'm at, guys. Day 5 of quitting weed. My appetite is okay. I've dropped about 5 kilos through being sick and through not really having too much of an appetite over the last week. Sitting at about 92 kgs, but I feel like I'm extremely dehydrated right now, so I'm probably about 94, and I've been as high as about 98 during the last couple of weeks. So that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I couldn't give a shit about being big anymore. You know what I mean? I want to be fit. I want to be lean, mean, capable. I don't necessarily need to be 230 pounds, because then when I go and try and run a marathon, it's going to be that much harder. So my body is readjusting in many, many ways. Thanks for listening, guys. I've probably rambled again. I know I have, but this is me getting my thoughts and my life back in order, and it was only ever going to happen if I took out drugs and alcohol. So thank you, guys, and much love, best of luck, and I'll see you in the next one.